Hey everyone, it's Dane again. I'm kind of in between projects at the moment. Actually, I have two of them going, but I'm waiting on parts, so I can't really work on those today. So I thought something that might be fun to do in the meantime would be to do a project I've been planning for a while, which is to convert Madara to the English translation of Castlevania 3. Now, if you're into collecting, you probably know that is a pretty expensive game, not really one that I think you ought to crack open and mess with. But Madara is a lot less expensive. So I thought, what the heck, let's go ahead and crack this open and see if we can't get it translated. Now, I've never done one of these before, but I think it's pretty straightforward. So let's give this a shot and see how it goes. Okay, so as you can see, I've already pulled the Madara board out of the shell, and I have already burnt our prog and character ROMs. Now, it took me a minute to figure out how to identify what was the prog and what was the character ROM on this board. So I'm going to bring up the BootGodDB site and show you how to identify that. Okay, so here we have the BootGodDB website. You can see that we pulled up Madara. Has a lot of great information here. We can see the type of mapper it's using. We can see that it's a VRC6, and it has both the prog and the character ROM listed. Now, I was trying to figure out how to identify this looking at the board, and it actually turns out that the 277BK and 278BK are how we're going to do this. As you can see here, 277BK is listed right here, 278BK is listed right there. So that means that our prog ROM 277 is in this position and our character ROM is in the lower right position. Realized that I started desoldering these chips and had forgot to hit record. So anyway, yeah, just had retinned the chips and I'm removing it with the desoldering vacuum now. All right, let's see if that freed up. Oh, there we go, popped right in. So there is our character ROM. Let's get this prog ROM out of here. Look at that, lifted right out. So I think the next thing we're gonna do is go ahead and lift pins 9 and 10 on our VRC6 chip here and swap them because, again, because we're doing the VRC6A version and this board is currently configured to VRC6B. Okay, let's take a minute to go over exactly what we need to do to modify our VRC6 chip. So you can see here that VRC6A used by Akumajo Densetsu VRC6B is used by Madara and Dream 2. And here it tells us the difference between the two variants, switches the A0 or the A0 and the A1 lines. So if we click on the pinout, we can see here that A0 and A1 are on pins 9 and 10. So it looks like all we need to do is lift pin 9, lift pin 10, and then run a wire from the old holes to the new pins. Should be pretty straightforward, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so let's go ahead and count down to our pins and mark the ones that we need to desolder. So we want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I'm just gonna mark those. Because we start counting here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. And yep, it'll be those two right there. Let's go ahead and get those desoldered. You always kind of need to be careful when you are lifting pins on a chip that is welded into place. I have personally found that it's pretty easy to snap them off like at the chip. So you just need to be careful doing it. I've also found that an X-Acto knife is usually what I like to use to pry them out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right, so 9 is our first pin. There we go, looking good. And I'm just trying to be kind of gentle with these, you know. And what I'm probably going to do, I don't know if I want to maybe just clip those off. Yeah, we'll cross that bridge in a minute when we get to it. So next thing we're going to do is tin those legs and rewire these 2 points. Okay, so yeah, I think I'm just going to leave these as is in case for some reason I ever want to convert this back to a Madara cart. It would be very easy to do. I would just pop the original ROMs back in and take the wires off and put those pins back where they belong. So pretty easy to reverse this if I ever wanted to. So next thing I'm going to do is tin our points that we're going to weld to. Here we go. Now the next thing we want to do is actually run our small Kynar wire through the original holes and then weld them to the back side here. Okay, so we'll strip a bit of this wire here. Got tons to work with. All right, let's go ahead and get that wire tinned. There we go, our second wire. So yeah, we're just going to basically run this up and through, leave just enough poking out to weld to. Just like that. Here we go, there's one, and wire number 2. Do the same thing. Okay, that's simple. Snip those off. Okay, it looks great. Okay, so really what we're going to want to do is just cross our wire here and our next one here like that. So you can see that they will be crossing underneath, like so. So I don't want to have like a ton of wires running all over the place. The only trick really is going to be kind of getting the wire stripped down that low. So I may just have to do that with the soldering iron, kind of like melt off a little bit of the wire there. I think that's how I'm going to try to do it. So I'm melting the plastic off there. I'm going to apply some solder, see if we can't make that connection. Yep, I think we're good to go. I think we're all connected there. Let's do the same thing on the other side. Just melt off a little bit of that housing. You can see that we have rerouted those 2 pins, and you'd almost never know looking at it from the top, you know, aside from the big old pins poking out. Okay, so we are going to want to test continuity, make sure that this is doing what we set out to make it do. We'll do that now. Okay, let's go ahead and test our continuity. So I'm going to kind of rest my connector on the lower pin and then test the upper pin. It's kind of tricky to do, but you have to sort of balance the board. All right, that is correct. Make sure nothing's bridged. It's not. And leave that pin. Move up to the top one. Yeah, all right, so all of our connections are doing exactly what we wanted. Okay, let's go ahead and put in our new ROMs. I always like to do prog first. It kind of just helps me keep track of like what is where in my head. If we look at these, the way they were originally installed is with the dot to the lower left like so. So we want to make sure that we follow the same thing. This is the original prog. This is my new prog. We want to make sure that our dots are in the same corner when we install them. Oh yeah, I need to bend these legs. And I always just do that by placing the chip on my workbench, pressing down a little bit to bend those pins all at the same time. Okay, should be good to go. Do a little drag soldering. Just like to tack one down first. All right, here we go. I think we got a couple pins bridged right here. Oh, that's on the same. Those always be bridged anyway. Looks like they're both hitting the same plane there. All right, let's go ahead and get our character ROM in. Bend my pins. Tack it down, and drag it. All right, let's just go back over, make sure all these joints are wetted really well. Yeah, some of these ones on this side are wanting to bridge a little bit more, so I'm just gonna throw a little flux on there. Just a bit. Those all look pretty darn good. Yeah, those ones don't want to separate. It doesn't actually matter because they're going to the same spot, but I'm OCD about stuff like that. Just because I'm being that way today, I'm going to use just a little bit of braid, pull just a little bit of that excess up out of there. All right, let's see. Let's take a look. Okay, those all look pretty good. Looks like I did have a couple of splashes here that I need to take care of. Sometimes it's just a matter of kind of hitting it with your fingernail, and that's enough because it's not really welded down hard, you know. All right, let's get this cleaned up, and we can test it out, see if it worked. Alcohol and toothbrush. There we go. All right, let's go test it out. Okay, so I have our newly translated game plugged into my Famicom converter. Let's see if this worked. Awesome. So, first try totally worked. That is so exciting. I'm so happy that I was able to rip my game, translate it, put it on this new cart. But there's one more thing I wanted to do, because really I want this to be a Nintendo game, not a Famicom game. So I have a couple of things I want to do to convert this. So let's go check that out now. Okay, so my goal with this was to make an NES cartridge. Now, these VRC6 games are pretty big. If I would have used the actual game, the actual Akumajo Densetsu board from the actual original cartridge, it's a lot smaller. But again, I didn't want to mess with my cartridge, which is why I bought this Madara donor board. I need to try to make it fit inside this really cool, I got this really cool red transparent shell from a seller on Etsy, and these look really super cool. And I also got a low profile cartridge converter from Muramasa Entertainment. So what I'm going to do is plug this in. It says NES front, Famicom back. So that will go in this way. And I want to put that inside the shell. So it's going to fit in there like so. The issue that I have, though, is that this board is so tall, it runs right up to the edge of that shell. And so this bump where you grab the cartridge actually gets in the way on both the front and the back. So, you know, this is just my own personal cartridge. I probably wouldn't do it this way if I was doing it for someone else, but I think I'm just going to Dremel that out, but I'll leave the top bit of plastic so it'll still be easy to grab the cartridge and put it in and out of the Nintendo. The only real drawback to that, aside from having a hole in your cartridge, is that this middle post won't work anymore. It doesn't actually line up with the hole in the cartridge, so it's just going to be held on by 2 screws. It's not ideal, but it should work. So I'm going to go Dremel that out and be right back. All right, so just got finished Dremeling out my shell. And as you can see here, basically cut down these 2 posts, same with these, and then Dremeled out this bit here. And on the back piece, I just had to cut out a portion here. Did a little bit of an uglier job on the back, at least it's on the back. I think it's gonna work. So let's go ahead and set our cartridge or our board down in the shell, like so. And then we'll slot the back in as well. And that's gonna close up just fine. So you can see I was able to leave a strip of plastic up here at the top to grab it and pull it out. We do have enough room that the VRC6 chip is able to poke out. I know it's not the very prettiest job in the world, but it does get the job done. I have a cool new custom English translated Akumajo Densetsu Castlevania 3. I plan on getting a label made up to put on there. And this will play on my expansion audio modded NES. So yeah, let's go ahead and screw this together and go test it out. Okay, our cartridge is all buttoned back up. Let's go test out our English translated Castlevania 3 ROM. Really excited about this. Alright guys, well that does it for our Castlevania 3 translation today. Thanks so much for being here with me. If you have any questions about any of the steps in this, of course feel free to hit me up in the comments. You know, I didn't cover actually ripping the ROM or burning them today, but you know, I'm always happy to go over that stuff, and I have done some of that in my other videos. But yeah, if you have any questions, of course feel free to hit me up. And yeah, thanks again for being here, and we'll catch you next time. Bye now.